Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Smalley and today we are going to be talking about the Western equine encephalitis virus. So basically the disease, to start off with, the disease pathology, what is Western equine encephalitis? Western equine encephalitis, commonly known as WE, is an arborvirus belonging to the genus Alphavirus, coming from the family Togaviridae. We consist of enveloped glycoproteins and nucleic acids along with a single-stranded RNA genome. We is a descendant from the virus Synbus and an ancestor to viruses such as Eastern equine encephalitis and Venezuelan encephalitis. However, WE is not as common as Eastern equine encephalitis because it's kind of a dying disease. It really hasn't been around. It was more common in like the late 20th century, and it's not really found today. Going on with the disease pathology, WE is spread through mosquito bites, most commonly by the vector mosquito Culex tarsalis. The virus undergoes endocytosis and binds to the receptors in tissues of the brain. This causes the development of a dependent RNA synthesis from the original RNA strand. WE translocates to the central nervous system via capillaries of the brain and endothelial cells. Spreading of WE continues through the central nervous system by neighboring dendrites and axons. Disease pathology. So the pathophysiology of WE is encephalitis actually means inflammation of the brain. In a not so severe case, WE causes swelling of the brain and mimics other viral and inflammatory infections. In a severe case, the central nervous system can be damaged because immunology cells enter the brain's connective tissue, causing demyelination and focal necrosis. Macrophages and other cells, a part of the immune response, enter the brain's tissue and destroy it. Still on the disease pathology, populations WE can affect. So Western equine encephalitis can affect anyone of any socioeconomic class, race, and gender. However, more cases of WE are shown in rural areas. Culex tarsalis mosquitoes prefer grassy wetlands west of the Mississippi River, hence the name Western equine encephalitis. So WE is more contracted in those areas rather than developed towns or cities. On another note, age actually does matter for those who contract the disease. Fetuses, infants, and elderly people who are infected with Western equine encephalitis have higher fatality rates because their brains are either not fully developed or no longer developed as they were, so they're not strong. Going along with that, it's most cases are really severe for those who end up getting the virus. The community, mosquitoes are the ones who largely carried the disease, but in Western communities, Western equine encephalitis can be found in birds, black-tailed jackrabbits, and even reptiles. In North America, WE in birds is mostly maintained, yet mosquitoes are still the most common vector, which means that they are the ones most likely to carry the disease and transmit it. If people who are pregnant and are affected with the Western equine encephalitis, the virus can cross the placenta and damage the fetus significantly. So treatment for Western equine encephalitis. There is no current treatment for WE because it is an alpha virus. If hosts of the virus are in the early stages, doctors can give medications to help with symptoms of Western equine encephalitis like steroids and ribavirin. The thing about ribavirin, though, is that if one were to take it, there is a chance that it may not work. There are studies and stuff that shows that its effectiveness has really only been in vitro. There is still no evidence that these drugs essentially help and treat Western equine encephalitis. If host is in the late stages, the central nervous system is impaired, doctors can provide help to the patients with their life-sustaining needs. So if they can't breathe on their own, they can get a ventilator. Disease management. Since there are no treatments for Western equine encephalitis, all scientists can do is take the viral protein of wheat and culture it. So that it can be further expressed and vaccines could be developed for humans, but this has not happened yet. So the symptoms of Western equine encephalitis, symptoms for WE include meningitis, encephalitis, paralysis, and other signs dealing with the central nervous system. Symptoms that are not paired with the central nervous system include fever, chills, headache, myalgia, and absence of neuroinvasive disease. And that basically means that it's not referring to the central nervous system. Pharmacological impact, diagnosis of Western equine encephalitis. In laboratories, one way to diagnose a patient would be to extract a strand of the virus from the tissue surrounding the brain, or the cerebral spinal fluid. And it can also be any bodily fluid like blood. This strand needs to be isolated so that the specific nucleic acids or antigens for Western equine encephalitis can be identified. In horses, it is known that the strand of the virus cannot be isolated once it has killed the horse. The virus needs to be caught on at an early stage in order for it to be isolated. Pharmacist treatment. So like I said before, there is no medicine or drug that can be prescribed to treat those with WE. Only medication help the symptoms. Only medication to help the symptoms can be prescribed. Horses, on the other hand, can receive a vaccine for Western equine encephalitis at a veterinary clinic. Prevention plan. So to avoid getting Western equine encephalitis, always wear long sleeves, long pants when going outside at dusk or dawn, wear mosquito repellent, or just simply avoid going outside at dusk and dawn if living in those grassy wetlands. And also to make sure, if you do have horses, to get them vaccinated with the Western equine encephalitis.